The morning sun cast long shadows across New Haven Colony as Captain Marcus Webb walked through the empty streets. His boots echoed against the metal walkways that connected the dome-shaped buildings. Most families had already packed their belongings and left on the evacuation ships. Only a few stubborn colonists remained. Marcus stopped at the central command post and checked his communication device. 3 more mining outposts had gone silent during the night. That made 7 in 2 weeks. The same pattern every time. No distress calls, no survivors. Just twisted metal and deep claw marks in the ground. The Ravager had returned. Dr. Emily Stone looked up from her research station as Marcus entered the science building. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and dark circles showed under her green eyes. She had been working for days without proper sleep. "Any word from Outpost 7?" she asked, though her voice already knew the answer. Marcus shook his head. Communication went dead at Oro 300 hours, same as the others. Emily pulled up a holographic map of the colony region. Red markers showed the destroyed outposts. They formed a rough circle around New Haven Colony, getting closer each day. "It's hunting systematically," Emily said, pointing at the pattern. "This isn't random violence. The creature is planning its attacks." Marcus studied the map. In his 20 years of military service, he had fought many dangerous aliens, but nothing like this. The Ravager stood 12 feet tall and weighed nearly 2 tons. Its body was covered in thick, dark fur that could deflect energy weapons. Crystalline, spikes ran along its back, each one sharp enough to cut through steel. Its eyes glowed like molten gold in the darkness. Most terrifying of all, the creature was intelligent. "The evacuation ships can take the last families tomorrow," Marcus said. "We need to get everyone off this planet before it reaches the main colony." Emily nodded but continued studying her data. She had spent 3 years researching the Outer Rim territories. Every report about the Ravager told the same story. Military forces would hunt it down, thinking they had cornered a simple beast. Then their ships would be found days later, torn apart like paper toys. "Captain Webb to all remaining colonists," Marcus spoke into his communicator. "Final evacuation begins at dawn. Report to Landing Bay 3 with essential items only. This is not optional." Across the colony, families gathered their most precious belongings. Children clutched stuffed animals while parents made impossible choices about what to leave behind. New Haven had been their home for 8 years. They had built farms, schools, and businesses here. Now they had to abandon everything because of one creature. Tom Thompson stood in his small farmhouse on the edge of the colony. His 8-year-old son Jake sat at the kitchen table, eating breakfast cereal from a metal bowl. Tom watched his boy eat and wondered how to explain that they might never come back. "Dad, are we really leaving?" Jake asked between spoonfuls of cereal. Tom sat down across from his son. Jake had his mother's dark hair and curious brown eyes. The boy's mother had died when he was 5, leaving Tom to raise him alone on this frontier world. "We have to, son. It's not safe here anymore." Jake looked out the window toward the rolling hills where Tom grew vegetables and grain. "What about the farm? Who will take care of the plants?" Tom's heart broke a little. Jake had helped him plant seeds and water crops since he was old enough to hold a watering can. This farm was the only home the boy remembered. "We'll come back when it's safe," Tom lied. He knew they would never return. Outside, the wind carried a sound that made both father and son freeze. It started as a low rumble like distant thunder. Then it rose to a howl that seemed to come from the depths of space itself. The sound lasted 15 seconds before fading away. The Ravager was close. Tom grabbed Jake's hand and their emergency. "Fartsy, we need to go now." They ran outside toward the colony center. Other families were also running, their faces filled with panic. The howl came again, closer this time. From the hills beyond Tom's farm, golden eyes watched the fleeing humans. At the command post, Marcus received reports from his security teams. "Sir, we have visual contact. The creature is 2 kilometers south of the main colony." Marcus activated the emergency warning system. Sirens wailed across New Haven. telling everyone to get to the evacuation ships immediately. But Marcus knew it might already be too late. Emily gathered her research data and emergency supplies. 20 years of scientific work went into 3 storage devices that fit in her pocket. Everything else would be lost. She thought about all the discoveries she had made on New Haven. The unique plant species, the mineral formations, the weather patterns, all of it would be destroyed or abandoned. "Dr. Stone, we need to move," Marcus called from the doorway. Emily took one last look at her laboratory. Then she followed Marcus toward Landing Bay 3, where the final evacuation ship waited. Tom and Jake reached the landing bay as other families were boarding the large transport vessel. The ship could carry 200 people, but only 50 colonists remained. Children cried as they left their toys behind. Adults stared at the ground, too sad to look back at their homes. Thompson family, boarding group 7, called the ship's loading officer. Tom picked up Jake and moved toward the boarding ramp, but Jake turned to look back toward their farm one more time. "Dad, what if the monster is just scared too?" Tom stopped walking. "What do you mean, son?" "When animals are scared, they act mean. Maybe the monster just needs a friend." Before Tom could answer, another howl echoed across the colony. This time it was so close that windows rattled in nearby buildings. The evacuation ship's engines began powering up for immediate departure. Marcus checked his weapon one final time as he climbed aboard the ship. Behind him, New Haven Colony sat empty under the alien sun. Soon, the Ravager would claim another human settlement. As the ship lifted off, Jake pressed his face to a small window and watched their farm grow smaller below. The boy's innocent words echoed in Tom's mind. What if the monster just needs a friend? But monsters and humans were not meant to be friends. Everyone knew that. The ship climbed toward the stars, leaving New Haven Colony to its fate. The evacuation ship landed at the temporary base camp 20 miles from New Haven Colony. Rows of white emergency shelters covered the flat ground like a small city made of fabric and metal poles. Families huddled around portable heaters trying to stay warm in the cold night air. Tom Thompson finished setting up their small shelter and looked around for Jake. The boy had been helping him carry supplies just a minute ago. Now Jake was nowhere to be seen. "Jake!" Tom called out. "Jake! Where are you?" Other parents looked up from their own camps. Children had a way of wandering off, even in dangerous situations. Tom walked between the shelters, checking each family, group. No one had seen his son. Captain Marcus Webb heard the commotion and came over with his security team. "What's the problem, Thompson?" "It's Jake. He was right here helping me, and now he's gone." Marcus felt his stomach drop. The boy was only 8 years old. If he had wandered away from the camp, he could easily get lost in the dark forest. Or worse, he could run into the very creature they were all trying to escape. "How long has he been missing?" Marcus asked. Tom checked his watch. "Maybe 10 minutes. He was carrying a bag of supplies from the ship." Dr. Emily Stone joined the group. She had been organizing the scientific equipment they managed to save. "Did anyone see which direction he went?" A young girl named Lisa pointed toward the forest edge. "I saw Jake walking toward the big trees. He had his backpack with him." Marcus immediately activated his communicator. "All security teams, we have a missing child. 8-year-old male, dark hair, wearing a blue jacket, last seen heading into the forest. This is now our top priority." Tom grabbed a flashlight and started toward the forest. Marcus caught his arm. "Thompson, you need to stay here. My team is trained for search and rescue." "That's my son out there," Tom said, his voice shaking. "I'm not staying here while he's in danger." Marcus understood. If it were his child, he would feel the same way. "Fine. But you stay with me and you follow my orders exactly, understood?" Tom nodded and picked up another flashlight. Meanwhile, Jake Thompson walked through the forest without any fear. The moonlight filtered through the tall trees, creating patterns of light and shadow on the ground. He could hear small animals moving, in the bushes and the sound of running water somewhere ahead. Jake had always loved exploring. Back on their farm, he would spend hours walking through the fields and woods, looking for interesting rocks or watching birds build their nests. His father worried too much about dangers that Jake never seemed to encounter. The sound of water grew louder as Jake pushed through a cluster of low branches. He found himself at the edge of a small clearing where a crystal-clear stream flowed over smooth rocks. The water sparkled in the moonlight like liquid diamonds. Jake sat down on a fallen log near the stream and opened his backpack. Inside, he had packed his favorite snacks, a water bottle, and his collection of interesting stones he had found around the colony. He took out an apple and began eating it while listening to the peaceful sound of flowing water. That's when he saw the golden eyes. At first, Jake thought they might belong to some kind of large deer or elk. The eyes watched him from across the stream, glowing softly in the darkness. Jake stayed very still, not wanting to scare the animal away. Slowly, the creature stepped into the moonlight. Jake had never seen anything so magnificent and terrifying at the same time. The Ravager stood 12 feet tall, its massive body covered in dark fur that seemed to absorb light. Crystalline spikes along its back caught the moonlight and threw it back in rainbow colors. Its golden eyes were larger than dinner plates, and they stared at Jake with an intelligence that was clearly not animal-like. Most adults would have run screaming. Most would have fainted from pure terror. Jake Thompson took another bite of his apple and continued watching the creature with curiosity. The Ravager had expected many things when it approached the stream for a drink. It had smelled the human child from a mile away and followed the scent, planning to investigate this small intruder in its territory. But the creature had never encountered a human who showed no fear. For decades, every human the Ravager had met responded with violence, hatred, or terror. They shot weapons at it, set traps, and tried to capture it in metal cages. They saw it as a monster to be destroyed. But this small human just sat there eating fruit and watching with bright, curious eyes. The Ravager lowered its massive head to drink from the stream. It kept one eye on the boy, waiting for the inevitable scream or attempt to run away. Instead, Jake quietly finished his apple and pulled out a small sandwich from his backpack. "You're really big," Jake said softly, speaking to the creature like he might talk to a friendly dog. "Are you thirsty? This water looks really clean." The Ravager lifted its head, water dripping from its jaw. No human had ever spoken to it in such a calm, friendly voice. The creature tilted its head slightly, studying this strange small being. Jake unwrapped his sandwich and took a bite. "I'm Jake," he said between chews. "What's your name?" Back at the base camp, Tom and Marcus led search teams through the forest. They had been looking for over an hour without finding any trace of the missing boy. Tom's fear grew with each passing minute. "We need to expand the search pattern," Marcus said into his communicator. "Check every cave, every stream, every clearing." Dr. Emily Stone monitored the search from the communication tent. She had every scanner and detector working to find signs of human life in the forest. So far, they had found nothing. "Sir," came a voice over the radio. "We found something. Fresh footprints leading toward the old mining trail. Small boots, definitely a child." Tom felt hope mixed with terror. The mining trail led deep into the forest, far from the safety of the base camp, at Epau. The stream, Jake and the Ravager continued their strange meeting. The boy had finished his sandwich and was now skipping flat stones across the water. The Ravager watched each stone bounce 3 or 4 times before sinking. "My dad taught me how to do that," Jake explained. "You have to find stones that are really flat and smooth. Then you throw them sideways like this," Jake demonstrated with another stone. It skipped 6 times before disappearing under the water. The Ravager made a sound deep in its throat. Not a growl or snarl, but something almost like interest. The creature had never seen such a simple, peaceful activity. For the first time in many years, the Ravager felt something other than anger or hunger. This small human treated it like a friend instead of a monster. The feeling was strange and wonderful. Jake yawned and looked up at the stars. "I should probably go back soon. My dad will be worried." The creature understood that their meeting was ending. Part of it wanted to follow the child, to learn more about beings who could show kindness instead of fear. But the Ravager had learned long ago that humans and creatures like itself were not meant to be friends. As Jake stood up and shouldered his backpack, the search team's flashlights appeared through the trees. Tom Thompson crashed through the forest branches, following the beam of his flashlight toward the sound of running water. Captain Marcus Webb and 3 security officers ran beside him, their weapons ready. They had been searching for Jake for 2 hours, and Tom's heart pounded with fear and hope. "Jake!" Tom shouted as they reached the edge of the clearing. "Jake, are you there?" "I'm here, Dad," came a calm voice from beside the stream. Tom's flashlight beam swept across the clearing and stopped. His son sat peacefully on a fallen log, his backpack at his feet. But across the stream, 2 golden eyes reflected the light, back at them. The Ravager stood perfectly still, like a statue made of shadow and starlight. Its massive form blocked out the trees behind it. The crystalline spikes along its back caught the flashlight beams and scattered rainbow patterns across the ground. "Dear God," whispered one of the security officers. Marcus slowly raised his energy rifle, trying not to make any sudden movements. The creature was less than 30 feet away. At that distance, even the Ravager's incredible speed might not be enough to avoid their weapons. "Jake," Marcus called softly. "Very slowly, walk toward my voice. Don't look at the creature, just walk to me." Jake turned around to look at the search team. "It's okay, Captain Webb. He's friendly." "Son, that thing is not friendly," Tom said, his voice tight with fear. "Please just walk over here right now." But Jake didn't move. Instead, he looked back at the Ravager with concern. The creature's body language had changed. Its muscles tensed, and the golden eyes now burned with something that looked like anger. The peaceful moment by the stream was ending. The Ravager could smell the fear and aggression coming from the adult humans. Their weapons were pointed at it, just like every other time humans had found it. The brief moment of peace with the small one was over. Now came the familiar pattern of violence and hatred. A low growl rumbled in the creature's throat. "Jake, move away from there right now," Tom shouted, no longer trying to stay calm. The Ravager's growl grew louder. It lowered its head and took a step forward. The security officers raised their weapons higher. "If that thing moves again, we fire," Marcus ordered. Jake could feel the tension growing around him like a storm about to break. The adults were scared, which made the creature scared, which made the adults even more scared. Someone was going to get hurt if this continued. The boy thought about his life back on the farm. When the farm animals got frightened or aggressive, his father had taught him how to calm them down. You used a firm voice and clear commands. You showed them that you were in control, not them. Jake stood up and faced the Ravager. The creature was now only 20 feet away, its golden eyes fixed on the humans with their weapons. "Sit," Jake said. The word came out clear and strong, with no fear in it at all. Jake used the same tone he used when training the farm dogs back home. Not angry, not scared, just calm and confident. Everyone in the clearing held their breath. The Ravager stopped growling. Its massive head turned to look down at the small human who had just given it a command. No one had ever spoken to the creature that way before. Not with authority, but without hatred. Slowly, incredibly, the 12-foot terror that had destroyed military ships and killed hundreds of soldiers lowered its haunches to the ground. The Ravager sat like an enormous deadly dog obeying its master. Tom's flashlight nearly fell from his shaking hands. The security officers stared with their mouths open. Captain Marcus lowered his weapon without realizing it. "Good," Jake said, and walked over to pat the creature's massive front leg. "Good boy." The Ravager made a sound deep in its chest that might have been contentment. When Jake's small hand touched its fur, the creature felt something it had not experienced in decades. Trust, acceptance, friendship. Dr. Emily Stone's voice crackled over Marcus's communicator. "Captain Webb, report your status. We lost your signal." Marcus lifted the device with trembling hands. "Emily, you need to get out here right now. Bring your recording equipment. Bring everything." "Did you find Jake? Is he safe?" Marcus looked at the boy who was now sitting beside the most feared creature in the galaxy, both of them peaceful and calm under the starlight. "He's safe," Marcus said. But you're not going to believe what's happening here. 20 minutes later, Dr. Emily Stone arrived with her scientific equipment and 2 additional security teams. She expected to find a crime scene or perhaps a rescue operation. Instead, she found Jake Thompson giving the Ravager commands like it was a pet. "Lie down," Jake said, and the creature stretched out on the ground like a cat in the sunshine. "Roll over," Jake said. And the massive beast actually rolled onto its side, causing small earthquakes as 2 tons of alien muscle hit the forest floor. Emily set up her recording devices with hands that shook with excitement rather than fear. This was the greatest scientific discovery in human history. The most dangerous creature known to exist was responding to commands from an 8-year-old child. "How is this possible?" Emily whispered to Marcus. "I have no idea," Marcus replied. "But look at it. That thing could kill all of us in seconds, but it's acting like Jake's pet dog." Tom Thompson slowly approached his son, still not quite believing what he was seeing. "Jake, how did you know it would obey you?" Jake shrugged, the way children do when adults ask them obvious questions. He just needed someone to be nice to him. Animals always listen better when you're nice. The Ravager lifted its enormous head and looked at Tom with those golden eyes. For a moment, Tom saw not a monster, but something that might once have been lonely and afraid. "Dad, can we keep him?" Jake asked. Before Tom could answer, Emily's communicator buzzed with an emergency message from the Galactic Council. Fleet Admiral Lisa Carter's voice filled the forest clearing. "Attention, New Haven evacuation team. Long-range sensors show the Ravager in your area. Military strike force is inbound. Evacuate immediately. We are authorized to use orbital bombardment if necessary." Marcus felt ice form in his stomach. Orbital bombardment would destroy everything within 50 miles. The base camp, the colonists, and Jake's miraculous new friend. "How long until they arrive?" Emily asked. Marcus checked his tactical display. 6 hours, maybe 7. Jake looked up at the adults with confusion. Why do they want to hurt him? He's not bad. The Ravager seemed to understand that danger was coming. It stood up and moved closer to Jake, as if protecting the child who had shown it kindness. Tom realized that everything had changed in the space of one simple word. His son had done something that armies and scientists thought impossible. Now, they had to figure out how to save both the boy and the creature from the people who were supposed to protect them. The race against time had begun. Dr. Emily Stone had not slept in 36 hours. Her temporary laboratory was filled with recording equipment, data screens, and empty coffee cups. Outside her tent, Jake Thompson continued his amazing work with the creature that had terrified the galaxy for decades. Emily watched through her window as Jake taught the Ravager to fetch sticks. The massive beast would bound across the clearing like a playful puppy, despite weighing 2 tons. When it brought the stick back, Jake would pat its enormous head and say, "Good boy," in the same voice he might use with any pet. "This changes everything. We thought we knew," Emily muttered to herself as she reviewed the data. Captain Marcus Webb entered the lab tent carrying another pot of coffee and looking exhausted. "Any progress on figuring out how Jake did it?" Emily pulled up a brain scan on her main screen. "I've been monitoring the creature's neural activity. Look at this." The scan showed complex patterns of electrical activity throughout the Ravager's brain. The patterns were far more sophisticated than any Earth animal, and some regions showed activity levels similar to human intelligence. "It's not just smart," Emily said. "It's possibly as intelligent as we are, maybe more so." Marcus studied the scan data. "Then why has it been attacking human settlements for decades?" Emily switched to another screen showing the creature's physical responses during different interactions. Watch what happens when Jake talks to it versus when we adults approach. The data clearly showed that the Ravager's stress hormones dropped to almost 0 when interacting with Jake. But when adults came near, especially those carrying weapons, the creature's entire nervous system shifted into combat mode. "It responds to Jake because he shows no fear and no aggression," Emily explained. "Think about it. This creature has been hunted, shot at, and caged by humans for its entire life. It learned to see us as enemies because we treated it like one. Outside, the tent." Jake was trying to teach the Ravager to play hide-and-seek. The massive creature tried to hide behind trees that were much smaller than itself, clearly not understanding the concept but willing to try anything that made the boy happy. Thompson sat on a supply crate watching his son play with humanity's greatest nightmare. 3 days ago, Tom would never have believed such a scene was possible. Now he wondered if humans had been wrong about many things. "Jake," Tom called. "Come have some lunch." The boy ran over with the Ravager following behind like an enormous shadow. The creature stopped a respectful distance from Tom, somehow understanding that the man was still nervous around it. "Dad, did you know he can understand everything we say?" Jake asked while eating a sandwich. "What do you mean, son?" "Watch this." "Hey, buddy, can you show my dad how smart you are?" The Ravager looked at Tom for a moment, then began using its claw to draw in the dirt. Tom watched in amazement as the creature created a detailed map of the surrounding area, including the base camp, the forest, and even the stream where Jake had first met it. "Dear God," Tom whispered. "It's making a map." Jake nodded enthusiastically. "He knows where everything is, and look, he can write numbers too." The Ravager scratched symbols into the ground that looked like mathematical equations. Emily had taught Jake basic math, and the boy recognized addition and subtraction patterns. Dr. Stone emerged from her lab tent just in time to see the creature's drawings. She immediately began photographing everything with her recording equipment. "This is incredible," she said. "It's demonstrating abstract thinking, spatial awareness, and mathematical concepts. This creature is definitely sentient." Captain Marcus joined the group and studied the ground drawings. If it's this intelligent, then why didn't it try to communicate? Before? Emily knelt down beside the Ravager's artwork. "Maybe it did try, but we weren't listening. We saw a dangerous animal and responded with violence. It learned to respond the same way." The creature looked up at Emily and began drawing again. This time, it created pictures that showed other members of its species. The drawings depicted a world with crystal formations, strange plants, and multiple Ravager-like beings living together peacefully. "It's showing us its home," Emily realized. "This might be the last one of its kind." Jake petted the creature's massive head. "You must be really lonely," he said softly. The Ravager made a sound that was almost like crying. Not the terrible roar that had frightened colonists, but something sad and lost. Emily's communicator buzzed with an incoming message. Admiral Lisa Carter's face appeared on the small screen, and she did not look pleased. "Dr. Stone, I'm receiving reports that you're conducting experiments with the hostile entity instead of maintaining safe distance. Explain immediately." "Admiral, this creature is not hostile. We've made a breakthrough in interspecies communication that could change everything." Admiral Carter's expression grew cold. "Doctor, that thing has killed hundreds of people. It has destroyed military vessels and civilian installations. I don't care if it can draw pictures. The strike force arrives in 3 hours, and we will eliminate the threat. But Admiral, if you would just look at our data." "The discussion is over, Doctor. Evacuate to minimum safe distance immediately, that's an order." The communication ended, leaving the group staring at the blank screen. 3 hours, Marcus said quietly. Jake looked confused. "Why don't they want to be friends with him?" Tom struggled to find words that an 8-year-old could understand. Sometimes adults make decisions based on fear instead of trying to understand. Emily quickly packed her most important research data. "We need to get this information to the Galactic Council. If they could see what we've discovered." "There's no time," Marcus said. "The strike force won't listen to scientific reports. They have their orders." The Ravager seemed to sense the tension among its new human friends. The creature stood up and looked toward the sky, as if it could already detect the approaching ships. Jake hugged the creature's massive leg. "Don't worry, buddy, we won't let them hurt you." But Tom and Marcus exchanged worried looks. How could a few colonists protect anything from a full military strike force equipped with orbital bombardment weapons? Dr. Stone made a decision that surprised everyone. "We're not evacuating." "Emily, you can't be serious," Marcus said. I'm completely serious. This is the greatest scientific discovery in human history. I won't let fear and ignorance destroy it. Tom thought about his son's safety versus his son's amazing new friendship. If we stay, Jake could be hurt. If we leave, they'll kill the creature, Emily replied. And Jake will never forgive us for abandoning his friend. Jake looked up at the adults with hope in his eyes. We can protect him, right, Dad? Tom looked at his son, then at the creature that had somehow learned to trust them. I don't know, Jake, but we can try. The Ravager began drawing in the dirt again. This time it created pictures of human spaceships approaching from above. Then it drew itself standing between the ships and the small figures that clearly represented Jake and the others. It knows what's coming, Emily realized, and it's planning to protect us. Marcus activated his communicator to contact the remaining colonists. This is Captain Webb. I need all volunteers to remain at base camp. We have a situation that requires immediate attention. Within an hour, most of the evacuated colonists had returned. They came not because they weren't afraid of the Ravager, but because they trusted Marcus and wanted to help Jake. As the sun began to set, the unlikely group prepared to face the most powerful military force in the galaxy. They had no weapons that could challenge starships, no shields that could stop orbital bombardment. All they had was one boy's friendship with a creature that everyone else saw as a monster. But sometimes, friendship can be the strongest force in the universe. Admiral Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of the battleship Resolute, watching the blue and green planet grow larger on her main screen. Behind her ship, 24 other vessels maintained perfect formation. It was the largest military force assembled in this sector for over a decade. Admiral, we have visual contact with the evacuation site, reported her tactical officer. Long-range sensors confirm the target creature is still in the area. Lisa studied the readings from her command chair. The Ravager's biosignature was unmistakable. For 20 years, she had dreamed of the day when humanity would finally destroy the terror of the Outer Rim. Today, that dream would become reality. Prepare orbital bombardment cannons, she commanded. I want a complete sterilization pattern covering 50 square kilometers around the target zone. On the planet's surface, Captain Marcus Webb watched. The ships appear as bright dots against the afternoon sky. The colonists had formed a protective circle around Jake and the Ravager, but Marcus knew their small group could do nothing against that much firepower. Dr. Emily Stone made final adjustments to her communication equipment. If they were going to die here, she wanted the galaxy to know what they had discovered. The truth about the Ravager deserved to survive, even if they didn't. Jake Thompson sat beside his enormous friend, completely unaware that death approached. From above, the boy was teaching the creature to play tic-tac-toe in the dirt, and the Ravager was winning most of the games. Admiral Carter to surface team, came the voice from Marcus's communicator. You have exactly 10 minutes to reach minimum safe distance. After that, we begin bombardment. Marcus activated his transmitter. Admiral, Dr. Stone has made critical discoveries about the creature. We need more time to... Captain Webb, your orders were to evacuate all personnel. Instead, you've remained in the target zone with civilian colonists. Explain immediately. Emily grabbed the communicator from Marcus. Admiral Carter, this is Dr. Stone. The creature you plan to destroy is a sentient being capable of communication and peaceful interaction. We have documented proof that... Doctor, I don't care if it can recite poetry. That thing has killed hundreds of our people. 10 minutes. The communication ended with a harsh click. Tom Thompson knelt beside his son. Jake, we need to talk. The boy looked up from his game with concerned eyes. Is someone trying to hurt my friend? Tom struggled with how much truth an 8-year-old could handle. Yes, son. Some people are very scared of him, and they think the only way to be safe is to hurt him first. Jake's face grew serious. But that's wrong. He's not scary when you're nice to him. The Ravager seemed to understand the conversation. The creature stood up and looked toward the sky where the ships hung like metal stars. Its golden eyes began to glow brighter, and the crystalline spikes along its back started to emit a soft humming sound. It's preparing for battle, Emily realized. Look at the bio readings. Her scanners showed the creature's internal systems shifting into combat mode, heart rate increasing, muscle tension rising, neural activity spiking in the regions associated with aggression and survival. But something was different this time. Instead of the mindless rage that had characterized its previous fights, the Ravager's brain patterns showed calculated thinking. It was making plans. "Admiral, this is Captain Marcus Webb," Marcus said into his communicator. "Request permission to bring one representative to your ship for immediate consultation." "Negative, Captain. 8 minutes remaining." Marcus made a decision that would either save them all or get him court-martialed. "Admiral, I'm declaring this a first contact situation under Galactic Regulation 7 Alpha. As senior military officer on site, I'm invoking diplomatic immunity protocols." The silence from space lasted 30 seconds before Admiral Carter's angry voice returned. "Captain Webb, you are relieved of command effective immediately. 7 minutes." Jake suddenly stood up and walked toward the center of the clearing. "I want to talk to the ships." "Jake, they can't hear you from down here," his father explained. But Jake pulled out a small emergency communicator from his backpack. Every colonist child carried one in case they got lost. "Can this reach them?" Emily quickly adjusted the device to broadcast on military frequencies. "Jake, what do you want to say?" The boy took the communicator and spoke in his clear, innocent voice. "Hello, people in the spaceships. This is Jake Thompson. I'm 8 years old and I live down here on the planet." Aboard the Resolute, Admiral Carter stared at her communication officer in disbelief. "Did a child just contact us on military frequency?" "Yes, ma'am. Signal is coming from the target zone." Lisa activated her transmitter. "Child, this is Admiral Carter. You need to get away from that creature immediately. It's very dangerous." "No, he's not," Jake replied. "His name is Guardian and he's my friend. He likes to play games and draw pictures. He's really smart too. Smarter than grown-ups, I think." "Son, that thing has killed many people. It's not safe to be near it." Jake looked at the Ravager, who was listening to the conversation with obvious interest. "Guardian, did you really hurt people?" The creature made a low, sad sound and nodded its massive head. "But you don't want to hurt people anymore, right?" The Ravager looked directly at Jake and shook its head. "No." Jake spoke into the communicator. Again. "Admiral Carter, Guardian says he's sorry for hurting people. He doesn't want to fight anymore. He just wants to be friends." Lisa felt something she hadn't experienced in years of military service. Doubt. Could it be possible that a child had accomplished what armies could not? 4 minutes to bombardment, her tactical officer reported. "Admiral," came Dr. Stone's voice over the communicator. "I'm transmitting our research data to your ship right now. Please look at it before you make your final decision." Emily uploaded 3 days' worth of brain scans, behavioral observations, and communication records. The data showed clear evidence of intelligence, emotion, and peaceful intent. Lisa reviewed the information as quickly as possible. The evidence was compelling, but 20 years of military training told her it could be a trap. 2 minutes to bombardment, the tactical officer announced. On the surface, the Ravager suddenly moved away from Jake and the colonists. The creature walked to the center of the clearing and lay down on its back, exposing its vulnerable belly to the sky. In animal behavior, this was the ultimate sign of submission and trust. Jake ran over and hugged his friend's massive head. "Don't be scared, Guardian. I won't let them hurt you." Tom Thompson faced the hardest decision of his life. His son was in the target zone of an orbital bombardment. He could grab Jake and run to safety, but the boy would never forgive him for abandoning his friend. 1 minute to bombardment. Admiral Carter stared at her tactical display. The creature that had terrorized the galaxy was lying defenseless on the ground, protected only by a group of colonists and one small child. "Ma'am, all weapons are charged and ready," the weapons officer reported. Lisa looked at the data on her screen one more time. Brain scans showing intelligence. Communication. Records proving the creature could understand complex concepts. Behavioral observations indicating peaceful intent when treated with kindness. 30 seconds to bombardment. Jake's voice came over the communicator one final time. "Admiral Carter, please don't hurt my friend. He's good now. I promise he's good. Lisa Carter closed her eyes and made a decision that would either save lives or doom the galaxy. Cancel bombardment, she ordered. All ships stand down. The weapons officer turned in surprise. Ma'am? You heard me. Cancel the bombardment. I'm going to the surface. Below, Jake hugged his friend and whispered, See? I told you everything. Would be okay. But the Ravager's golden eyes remained fixed on the ships above. It had learned long ago that humans could change their minds about peace as quickly as they made it. Admiral Lisa Carter's shuttle landed in the clearing with a soft whir of engines. The side door opened, and she stepped out wearing full combat armor and carrying a sidearm. Behind her came 2 Marines and a diplomatic officer, all looking nervous about meeting the galaxy's most feared creature. Jake Thompson ran toward the shuttle with a big smile, completely ignoring the weapons and military gear. Are you Admiral Carter? I'm Jake. Do you want to meet Guardian? Lisa looked down at the Teal, small boy with dark hair and bright eyes. In 30 years of military service, she had never seen such innocence in a combat zone. Hello, Jake. Yes, I'd like to meet your friend. The Ravager remained lying on its back in the center of the clearing, golden eyes watching every movement of the newcomers. Its massive form could have been mistaken for a small hill, if not for the gentle rise and fall of its breathing. Dr. Emily Stone approached with her research data ready. Admiral, thank you for agreeing to see our findings in person. Doctor, I want to make something very clear, Lisa said firmly. I'm here to evaluate the situation, not to negotiate with a known hostile entity. If that creature shows any sign of aggression, my ships will complete the bombardment. Jake tugged on the Admiral's armored sleeve. Guardian won't hurt anyone. Watch this. The boy walked over to the Ravager and said, Guardian, sit up and say hello to our new friends. The massive creature rolled over and rose to its full 12-foot height. For a moment, everyone except Jake took an involuntary step backward. The Ravager's presence was overwhelming, like standing next to a living mountain. But instead of the roar or snarl they expected, the creature made a gentle sound deep in its throat and lowered its enormous head in what could only be described as a bow of greeting. Holy hell, whispered one of the Marines. Jake beamed with pride. See? He has good manners. Admiral Carter studied the creature carefully. Every military report had described a mindless killing machine driven by rage and hunger. But the being in front of her showed clear signs of intelligence and controlled behavior. Guardian, Jake said, can you show the Admiral how smart you are? The Ravager moved to a patch of smooth dirt and began drawing with its claw. Within minutes, it had created a detailed diagram of the solar system, complete with planetary orbits and accurate distances between celestial bodies. Lisa stared at the drawing. It knows astronomy. It knows lots of things, Jake replied. Watch this. Guardian, can you show them about your home? The creature began a new drawing. This time it depicted a world covered in crystal formations and strange plants. Multiple creatures that looked like smaller versions of the Ravager lived together in what appeared to be a peaceful society. Emily showed her research data to the Admiral. Based on our observations, this creature isn't just intelligent. It's possibly more advanced than we are in some areas. Its brain capacity exceeds human levels, and it demonstrates understanding of complex scientific concepts. Then why did it attack our settlements? Lisa asked. Captain Marcus Webb stepped forward. Admiral, we believe the attacks were defensive responses to environmental destruction. Every site it hit was engaged in mining or industrial operations that damaged ecosystems similar to its homeworld. The Ravager drew another picture showing human machines digging into crystal formations while smaller creatures fled in terror. The message was clear. It had been trying to protect sacred places that humans saw only as resources to exploit. It was trying to save what reminded it of home, Tom Thompson said quietly. But we didn't understand, so we treated it like a monster. Jake patted the creature's massive leg. He was just lonely and scared, like animals get when people are mean to them. Admiral Carter felt something shift in her understanding. For decades, she had seen the Ravager as humanity's enemy. But what if they had been wrong about everything? Guardian, she said, testing the name Jake had given it. Do you understand what I'm saying? The creature nodded its enormous head and then used its claw to write symbols in the dirt. They were numbers. 24. That's exactly how many ships you brought, Emily realized. It can count our fleet from the ground. Lisa felt a chill as she understood the implications. You mean it's been studying our military capabilities this whole time? The Ravager drew more symbols. This time they showed the exact formation pattern of the fleet above, including details about ship types and probable weapon configurations. It could have told its species how to defeat us, Lisa whispered. If there are others like it, Jake shook his head. Guardian is the last one. That's why he's so sad sometimes. The creature made that crying sound again, and for the first time, Admiral Carter heard it as grief rather than a threat. Dr. Stone activated her communication device. Admiral, I'm receiving a priority message from the Galactic Council. The holographic image of Counselor Robert Hayes appeared above the device. He was an elderly man with gray hair and tired eyes who had been dealing with the Ravager crisis for over a decade. Admiral Carter, what is your status? We expected confirmation of target elimination an hour ago. Counselor Hayes, the situation has changed dramatically. We have evidence that the hostile entity is actually a sentient being, capable of peaceful communication. The counselor's expression grew skeptical. Admiral, that creature has been responsible for hundreds of deaths and millions of credits in damages. Are you certain about this assessment? Jake stepped in front of the hologram. Mr. Counselor, Guardian didn't mean to hurt people. He was trying to protect special places that reminded him of his family. But his family is all gone now, so he doesn't need to fight anymore. Counselor Hayes stared at the young boy in amazement. Child, are you saying you've been communicating with this creature? His name is Guardian, and he's really smart. He can do math and draw pictures and everything. He just needed someone to be nice to him. The Ravager moved closer to Jake and made a protective gesture, clearly understanding that the boy was speaking on its behalf. Emily quickly transmitted her complete research data to the Galactic Council. Counselor, we have documented proof of intelligence, emotional capacity, and peaceful intentions. This creature could be humanity's greatest ally instead of our greatest enemy. Counselor Hayes reviewed the data with obvious surprise. These brain scans are remarkable. If accurate, this being possesses intelligence levels comparable to our most advanced scientists. It's accurate, Admiral Carter confirmed. I've observed the creature's behavior personally. It demonstrates clear understanding of complex concepts and shows no aggression when treated with respect. Jake had an idea. Guardian, can you help humans find good planets that won't hurt other creatures? The Ravager immediately began drawing a star map showing dozens of systems with different types of planets. It marked some as suitable for human colonization and others as environmentally sensitive areas that should be protected. My God, Counselor, Hayes breathed. It's offering to help us identify sustainable colony sites. Dr. Stone realized the full implications. With its knowledge of ecological systems and space navigation, it could guide our expansion in ways that benefit everyone. No more accidental destruction of sensitive environments. Admiral Carter made a decision that would change galactic history. Counselor Hayes, I recommend establishing New Haven Colony as the first joint human-alien settlement. This creature could serve as an environmental consultant and cultural ambassador. Guardian could teach other humans how to be friends with creatures they haven't met yet, Jake added helpfully. Counselor Hayes considered the proposal carefully. The political implications are enormous, but the potential benefits... He paused. Very well. Admiral Carter, you're authorized to negotiate a formal alliance treaty. Over the following weeks, New Haven Colony became the center of a new kind of civilization. The Ravager, now known officially as Guardian, helped human scientists identify planets that could support colonies without destroying existing ecosystems. In return, humans provided technology and companionship to a being that had been alone for decades. Jake became Guardian's official interpreter, the bridge between two species that had once been enemies. Other children arrived on New Haven to learn communication techniques, and soon a whole generation grew up seeing Guardian as a friend rather than a monster. Captain Marcus Webb established the first interspecies security force, with Guardian, providing tactical advice about protecting both human settlements and sensitive alien environments. Dr. Emily Stone founded the Institute for Interspecies Communication, attracting scientists from across the galaxy. Tom Thompson expanded his farm, with Guardian's help, learning which crops would grow best without disturbing local ecosystems. The creature's knowledge of plant biology and soil composition made New Haven's agriculture the most successful in the Outer Rim. Admiral Lisa Carter retired from military service to become the first director of interspecies relations, overseeing the growing alliance between humans and the few other intelligent species they encountered. But it was Jake who remained Guardian's closest friend. Even as the boy grew older and the colony grew larger, they still met by the crystal stream where their friendship had begun. Sometimes they played games, sometimes they explored new parts of the planet, and sometimes they just sat together and watched the stars. The galaxy learned that its greatest monsters could become its greatest heroes when treated with understanding instead of fear. And it all started with one 8-year-old boy who saw friendship where everyone else saw only danger. On quiet evenings, when the work was done, Guardian would tell Jake stories about the stars and the creatures that lived among them. The boy would listen with the same wide-eyed wonder he had shown that first night by the stream. "Are there others like you out there?" Jake would ask. Guardian would draw pictures in the dirt showing different worlds and different creatures, all waiting for someone to offer them friendship instead of fear. "Then we better get ready to meet them," Jake would say with a grin. And in the growing darkness of an alien world that had become home, Boy and Guardian would plan for a future where no creature would ever have to be alone again.